He's back from holidays, and he's got a question to answer right off the hop. It's Eric Francis joining us. Good afternoon, sir. Question for you. What is the most Canadian thing that you saw today? A former discarded Toronto Maple Leaf coming up in a big moment at the Olympics, or the littlest hobo showing up at the cross-country ski venue?
I loved them both. And, I love Littlest Hobo more than almost anything. That was a great show. There's no question about that. But, those were two pretty incredible. One was an incredible moment. One was very humorous. But, man, Mitch Marner, Toronto's favorite whipping boy. Maybe he wasn't so bad all these years after all. I was at the Four Nations, and he made quite a splash there. As soon as he scored today, first thing I thought of was him scoring, making that big impact in that game at the Four Nations as well in overtime. And, he's got this reputation, and I would be the first to admit it. When those games get tough in the playoffs, Mitch Marner disappears. But he has not disappeared on the two biggest stages he's been on in his life so far. And, man, what a moment for Canada.
Full disclosure, he went in 1-on-3, and I am yelling at the screen for him. Turn back, man. Turn back so we can get McDavid on the ice. This ice in his veins, I guess if it works out, you're good, right?
Possession is the name of the game in overtime. So, I just watched that, obviously we all just watched the Sweden game as well. And I blame that on the captain, Landeskog. First of all, making a really terrible shot attempt at the one end and then not being able to contain Quinn Hughes. Not many people can in today's NHL, but you got to keep that puck. So you're right. When Mitch Marner's going in 1-on-3, I play with a lot of guys in beer league hockey who try to do that all the time. It drives me nuts. But I don't have the Olympic medals on the line when they inevitably, dribble it into the corner. You're right. It worked. So I guess we can't complain about it, but that was a recipe for giving up the puck, which is always could be your last fatal flaw in overtime when it's 3-on-3.
So I know that you've had some downtime during the Olympic break. I'm sure you've kept in touch with the tournament. What's your takeaway thus far in the event as a whole?
Funny, I did predict at the beginning that America would win the tournament, and I did it begrudgingly. I did it out of fear, because I've feared for 30 years that they're eventually going to take us over in our sport. And I really believe that. Just it's a numbers game with the more and more people in the States playing the game and their population. But, the one thing that I took solace in was the fact that we probably have, the 3 or 4 best players in the world in McDavid, Crosby, Makar, and McKinnon. You want to throw Celebrini in that conversation, I'll listen. But, you also got to throw Quinn Hughes in that conversation because he's right there with Makar. But when Crosby went down today, obviously that's concerning for Canada in terms of our star-studded, depth. But then also the way we employed those other 3 guys, I love that they're all on the same line. Celebrini, McKinnon, and McDavid. It's a dream come true. And it's the story of the tournament to me. But they played them so much in the final period and in overtime. I was starting to get a little worried, is this where the lack of, I don't want to say the lack of depth, but come on, someone else needs to stand up here. And obviously Marner did, and Suzuki did in even bigger fashion earlier on. So, we do have the depth, and we do have all the horses that could do all these things. I was just waiting for someone to do it. That gives me comfort as we move forward that other guys could step up, because those other guys really have carried the mail. The big boys have carried the mail this whole tournament.
Eric Francis, at the risk of getting kicked out of Canada, I won't offer my opinion on this, but John Cooper seems to be of the thought process that Sidney Crosby was targeted and it was a dirty hit that he took today. Where do you stand?
I love John Cooper, and this is probably one of his buttons he's trying to push, and I didn't see it that way at all. That's fine. I'm not going to come down on Coop. I think he's the best coach in the world. So I didn't see it the same way. But there were 3 different hits where I could sit there and point to and say that's where the damage was maybe done. It looks to me like it's a groin issue, or but I know they're also talking about a knee, and he's going to get the MRI. So he gingerly walked off. It was an awful scene. We'll all remember it. And boy, oh boy, we hope it's not going to be the difference in this whole tournament. Did you see it as targeted? Because I didn't.
See, and that's why I risked getting kicked out of Canada, because I didn't think it was a targeted play. I just thought it was unlucky the way that the leg folded underneath him when he was hit.
Yeah, and like every team, and Canada's probably the biggest culprit of it, them in the States, you're hitting to hurt right now. It's the biggest stakes they've ever played for. And so whenever you finish a check, you're trying to, I don't want to say you're trying to hurt the guy, but the reason you hit guys a lot of times is to inflict pain, or at least take away their will to compete moving forward. And I just didn't see that. I didn't see that. Man, I can't imagine that he can play again in this tournament. I'm not going to sit here and try and guess what his future is this year in the NHL, but can you see him playing again in this tournament? Like, he doesn't leave that game unless he's significantly hurt. And the way he left the ice, too, was very, very precarious.
Well, and isn't there a thought that could be his presence on the bench? Now, I'm not saying that the Canadians need any more leadership, but just the threat of him potentially returning to the ice may have been something that would have Czechia had to contend with, if you understand what I mean?
Yeah. And they had that same discussion when Victor Hedman spent the entire game on the bench with Sweden. And, is there merit to him staying on the bench and offering his support and leadership? Or is it better spent 3 hours getting treatment of any sort to try and, get him healthier quicker? Obviously those things are all weighed. And so, but yeah, to your point, if he's not even coming back to sit there, boy, it's not good. Not good.
Are you worried? I'll tell you, I'm genuinely worried. I love this tournament. I love the best-on-best format. I think this is sensational hockey. But with Nathan McKinnon being nicked up, Sidney Crosby not finishing a game, Kevin Fiala breaking his pelvis, which I didn't understand you could do in a hockey game, this worries me that the NHL owners might say, our guys aren't going again.
Yeah, the owners can say that all they want, but the players worked it into the CBA that they get to go to this thing. And look, I don't know if an owner would ever admit this on the record, but even if the sacrifice is one of their players for the balance of the season, and we saw it with John Tavares in the last go round, and we're seeing it, potentially with a couple guys this year. For the greater good, they need to be here. This hockey really needs this. Hockey will benefit from this long term. I just saw the Forbes list, like the Calgary Flames are worth $1.8 billion, and they're like the 22nd ranked. These owners, you sacrifice a player here or there, and that can be very costly. Don't get me wrong. But these are the risks you take when you own a professional sports franchise. For the greater good, you need to be at the Olympics, and there's no other way to look at it. They're like, as a fan, how furious would you be if they just said, the owners came down and said, no, in the next CBA, we're not going to let them go to the Olympics because 3 guys got hurt last time around. Like, we just wouldn't stand for it as fans.
As a Canucks fan, I'm really hoping that Elias Pettersson does get hurt. No, I'm just kidding. I did not say that. I did not say
that, not me.
We talked about this a little bit yesterday when it came to the French Federation, and they kicked their own player off the team, and then the whole team says, well, no, what are you doing? You messed with one of our brothers. This is chemistry. What's your take on this?
Look, that's not their sport. They don't get it. They don't understand that what he did was the right thing to do, to stand up for teammates, to fight. I think that, didn't the Federation take more umbrage with the way he exited the arena? Yeah. Where he was whooping the crowd into a frenzy. But again, we're in the entertainment business. I know the Olympics is not about entertainment as much as it is medals, but the game of hockey, the sport that we all cover and talk about every day, is the entertainment business. And when a guy is interacting with a crowd, whether it's in a pot, obviously if he's flipping them all the bird, that's not good. But he was just having fun with it and running with the moment. And it's pretty pathetic that, a country that clearly doesn't know anything about hockey, they've got these big heads who've decided that this is contrary to the spirit of the Olympics. good God, learn your sport a little better before you start to try and suspend a guy. Good on the players for revolting.
Could you have imagined what they would have done with any of the Kachuk's antics?
Oh my! They'd have them drawn and quartered in France. You know what I mean? You can't. Or the guillotines was very popular in France back in the day. So those Kachucks better not change their passport. I don't think they will anytime soon. But hey, can I ask you this? I'm curious people's take on this. The old. Colson's done this before. The most annoying sound in the world from Dumb and Dumber.
Oh yeah.
Do you know that scene? I would second that and say that, to me, the most annoying sound I've ever heard in my life is the USA chant. I think it just, nothing angers me more in this. I'd rather be stuck in traffic for 4 hours than hear people, especially live in a building, these yahoos yelling USA. When we say Canada, do you think it still has the same effect on other people, that they want to inflict pain on the person next to them? Or is it different because the arrogance that is behind the USA chant?
Rivalry behind it. Because even hearing it at curling venues and other venues, I'm like, wow, that's loud. Maybe it's not the right place, but you know what? At the end of the day, it does somewhat make me envious, because there is that heightened sense of patriotism.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. At what cost? It annoys the rest of the world. But that's look, I just spent 2 weeks in Cabo, and the American people that you interact with there are very obviously the American people. You can tell the Americans from the Canadians. I don't know. I hope the Mexicans can too, because we try to wear our colors everywhere we can, because the worst thing in this world right now you could be accused of is being an American abroad. And so, but I guess that's one thing they're known for around the world, is being proud. But man, I wish there were other ways they could show it other than that damn chant. It's just the most annoying thing I've ever heard.
We actually did a case study on that in a marketing class in university. I didn't complete the course. What? As you can see, I'm here. So.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I there was a hockey game earlier this year, and I think it was a Flames game. And at the end of the game, they started, because at the end of the game, the two guys were trying to fight each other, and it's an NHL game in an American rink, and they start chanting USA, USA. The guy on their team that was trying to start that was getting involved was a Canadian. The guy on the Flames was Canadian. It had nothing to do with America. Do you know what I mean? But it's just let's puff out our chest and scream stupid stuff. And that's what Americans do best.
What also is the trend in hockey now? The goalie fight. The goalie fight has become in vogue, as there was one in the Western Hockey League between Penticton and Prince George the other night. Like I tell you, is that the cool thing now? You say it's an entertainment business, I guess. Damn
right. I got no problem with it. Look, I remember when Cam Talbot fought Mike Smith, which was the last goalie fight we saw before the most recent one, the Vasilevsky one.
Yeah.
And I remember talking to Cam Talbot the next day, and the whole world was fascinated by it. But also was in the middle of Battle of Alberta and all this other stuff. But Cam Talbot told me it was on his bucket list. Before his career ended, he wanted to get into a goalie fight. And his wife very specifically said, when he spoke of that out loud years earlier, his wife said, okay, as long as you don't fight either. And I think she listed two guys. I think the first was Pekka Rinne, but only because he was so big. And the second one was Mike Smith, because he was also very big. She says, as long as you don't fight one of those two guys, I'm okay with it. Sure enough, you can't pick your opponent sometimes. You got to pick your spot. And so what I'm saying is, I think these guys, it is becoming more and more a badge of honor. Like, every goalie nowadays would love to score a goal and be in a goalie fight. I'm not sure where they'd rank them on their bucket list, but one or the other is something that I think most guys would say, before the end of my college career or professional career, that's something I've got to do.
So Cam Talbot maybe never, ever, ever had a no trade clause, but he had a no fight clause with his wife. Makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. Now, here's one other thing. If you Google the KHL All-Star Game this year, maybe you've spoken of this already, they did a hardest shot competition for the goaltenders. And that was fantastic theater because almost all of them fell. Like they all took a big running start, and once they whiffed on the shot, then they would careen into the net. It was great theater. I would love to see that added. I mean, if we have to do an all-star game, please let's add something interesting about it, and that would be it.
No doubt. You know, I'm fascinated that NHL teams are back already. For some reason, I didn't think that players had to report until the weekend, but they've got like a week of training camp. How would that suck coming back from whether you're down south? I guess probably everybody's talking about what they did on their winter vacation right now, but this seems exorbitant. No, 7 days before you actually start playing games?
Absolutely ridiculous. I came back from Cabo last night. I was going to stay another week. And then when I found out the NHL was ordering the players back, yesterday by 2 p.m. they had to be back in the building. I'm like, what? So I came back early. The players came back early. And, you know, it was kind of interesting today. I have to say, I have to paint this picture for you. Flames are practicing, and the Canada game is on the Jumbotron at the Dome above them. And the guys, the whole practice, when it went into overtime, the guys are like, some guys are missing passes because they were looking up and trying to see what the score was. And then, there are only about 5 people that cover the Flames now left because the business is dying. The 5 of us exploded cheering when Canada scored the overtime winner. And the players were like thanking us after. Thanks for cheering us on during practice today, boys. It really meant a lot to us. I got news for you, boys. But anyway, they appreciated us also letting them know that they had to look up and see the game winner. So it was a surreal experience. Yeah, the fact that they're back is ridiculous.
Could Coach Huska, if he wanted, said, "Hey, boys, take another couple of days. It's on me," or is this is mandated? You got to be back.
Dude, for coaches, this is Christmas. They love this. They bag skated the Flames for the last 10, 15 minutes. Because they know these guys were all in Cabo and Hawaii, and they've all got great tans. And they know that they did very little over the last week and a half, whatever the case may be. So these coaches see this as a huge opportunity to really get these guys, back in shape from whatever edge they lost over the last 10 days. It's a bit ridiculous, but I'm telling you, coaches see this as very valuable. They would not pass this up at all. Coaches they don't get much practice time this year. I get that as well. Mm-hmm. So they want to make the most of it.
Okay, I need you to chime in and help us. Colson, the poor lad, has never seen an episode of The Littlest Hobo or Beachcombers. Those two have been nominated as the greatest Canadian show of all time after that dog ran the cross-country course today. So where are we going with this generation of Canadians that have never any inclination of The Littlest Hobo or Beachcombers?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably pretty tough to explain to someone who's 20 or 30 years old right now that this was actually a hit show, that this dog would go and save this, every half hour would go and save the world from something. It's pretty ridiculous. And if we're honest with each other, you and I look back at it with rose-colored glasses, but the reality is it was terrible TV. But it's all we had. It was our TV. And I'm lumping in another one that maybe people in the West don't know, but growing up in the Toronto area, King of Kensington. I don't know if that.
Yes.
I don't know if that. Yeah.
When he's walking down the street, he smiles at him.
Al Waxman was his name, and I remember being I was at a World Series game, and for some reason I somehow got into a private box, and in that box was Roger Staubach, who at the time was a big deal in the world, Deanie Petty, and Al Waxman. And I wasn't sure who made me more excited. Deanie Petty, I had a crush on my whole life as a young man. And Al Waxman was the goddamn King of Kensington. And whose autographs did I walk out of from that evening? Al Waxman and Deanie Petty. Roger Staubach could beat it. I had no interest. I had no interest after my stars were in my eyes for the other two Canadian celebs.
The Deanie Petty Show, right on after 11:30 before you got to the news and Flintstones.
And just before the Love Boat.
There you go. Eric. Eric Francis inside the NHL for Sports Select. Welcome back. Thanks for doing this with me today. Go Canada, go. We'll be talking, I guess, on semifinal Friday.
Yeah, we'll talk Friday. We'll have lots to talk about then, too. Take care. That was fun.